The Detroit Lions select
Welcome to Detroit Lions Live Draft Special. This is night one, presented by Pink Energy. I am Dannie Rogers, coming to you live from Las Vegas. Look, the temperatures are high. The vibes are even higher. Right behind me is the NFL draft tent, where 32 lives will change tonight as they hear their names come off that draft board and they start their professional football careers. This draft has been called unpredictable, and the Detroit Lions have 2 picks in that first round at 2nd and 32nd overall. I am happy to report I am not an NFL general manager, but Detroit Lions GM Brad Holmes, he has a very busy night. And here on Detroit Lions Live, we are giving the opportunity to the fans watching at home to put on their general manager hats with Play GM, presented by Pink Energy. We've got 5 questions up for you that will test your knowledge on these 2022 prospects and the Detroit Lions. Now is your chance to put on your GM hat by scanning the circular QR code looping on the lower right side of your screen to make your big draft decisions. First up, which side of the ball would you select at number 2 overall? Just 2 options here, offense or defense. Number 2, we're diving in deeper here. Which position would you select at number 2 overall? Quarterback, wide receiver, edge rusher, or defensive back? Thirdly, which side of the ball would you select at number 32 overall? This is an easy one, you guys. Offense or defense? Fourth question, which position would you draft at 32 overall? Quarterback, wide receiver, edge rusher, or defensive back? You only get one, folks. Last but not least, who are you selecting at number 2 overall? The question of the day. Is it Aidan Hutchinson, the Michigan Wolverine, Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, Kyle Hamilton of the Fighting Irish, or other? Scan the QR code to make your picks now. We'll reveal the results later in the show. All right, will the real general manager please stand up? I sat down with GM Brad Holmes, who is in his 2nd year with the Detroit Lions, and got his take on the 2022 NFL Draft. Take a listen. Brad, we are knocking on the door of the 2022 NFL Draft. The draft war room seems to be pretty much all set. I'm sure the great food that's being catered in Thursday night, that's been ordered. Going into that day one, what is your mindset right now, though?
You know what I've always thought about is it's all this, you mentioned great food that's there, and that's always like a big topic about draft day. I never get a chance to eat, and it's like, I don't know why. I walk by it and I don't know. So maybe it's a little bit of the, I don't want to call it anxiety, but everything that you put into it, it's just it's excitement. You're very excited, and we've done a lot of work, and I always say, we're going to surrender the results to our process, and I have full confidence in the process that we've had up to this point. There's some things that are still fluid, as new information is coming in, but we feel good where we're at, and we're ready to roll.
You mentioned a little anxiety that might be there day one. So what is your day one routine that might help you alleviate some of that anxiety and help you make some really big decisions later that night?
So that's a great question, because in the past, before I got into this chair, my routine was always like, get up, meditate, work out, go for a run. I don't have the back to do the running anymore, but exercise, work out, grab something to eat. Like, that was always the day one routine going into the draft. And so last year, it's year one, and I show up at, I can't remember, it was like 8:30 in the morning or something. And, I'm calling all these other GMs to talk about, potential trades and all that kind of stuff. And they're all like, what are you doing in the office, man? I'm taking a walk with my wife, or I just got done with a run. Like, I don't go in there till 1 o'clock. So I kind of learned my rookie mistake last year. So I'll probably go back to my former routine in terms of getting some exercise in, meditation, exercise, spend a little bit of time with the family, and I'll probably make more of a noon, 1 o'clock kind of appearance. Yeah, I learned my lesson.
I'm glad that you did. We've talked about it a little bit, the possibility of trading that number 2 overall, maybe that number 32 overall. So are the conversations sort of that simple, where you call the GM the morning of the draft?
Yeah, I would say a lot of, like, in the first round, you've had some prior dialogue and discussions with some of those GMs, but they might have not decided until the day of the draft. You know, again, things can change, new information come on all the way up to the day of the draft. So yeah, I want to say, let's say back in, it wasn't the day of the draft, but day 3 of the draft, you know, we had made a trade with Cleveland, and I didn't have that discussion with Andrew until that morning. So yeah, but it just all depends. Now at that point, you're looking at, you know, who's available on the board and the guy that you might want to go up and get and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you just got to be prepared.
You already mentioned the plan, the process that you and head coach Dan Campbell like to follow. And you mentioned a couple weeks ago at the annual meeting, it was the harder path, was that development plan that you guys took.
Yeah.
So what's going to make it the easier path here?
Well, getting better players and, you know, just adding more good football players, that will definitely make it easier. But that's just how me and Dan are wired, though. We're just wired on, you know, overcoming adversity, grit, you know, kind of taking maybe it's the road less traveled, you know, maybe the harder path. We're both wired that way. So as hard of a road as it was last year, you know, we'll always have that mindset. Now, as we acquire more players and improve our football team, I still think it's good to be grounded in that way.
There are so many questions about who this team will acquire in this upcoming draft. So much uncertainty, it sounds like, even leading up to the day, Thursday, that the first draft pick is called. So how do you turn that uncertain mindset into a really certain frame of mind?
It's the process. You know, you just gotta, you know, be confident in your process, and you truly, you've heard me say it before, I leave the results to that. And, you know, speaking of process, you know, we actually start our sorting process very early on. And so when you get that sorting process right, and then the process starts to narrow and narrow and narrow, and then the focus really gets dialed into, you know, this pool of players at this pick, you know, this pool of players maybe at this pick, and then you go through that sorting process again. So it's all process oriented. We feel really confident about it. We feel really good about it, but you got to just leave the results to that.
You mentioned here in the offseason that this team could add some more depth at just about every position. Both sides of the ball need to add starters. I know you've got your list of position groups, but what position group is at the top that needs an immediate day one impact starter?
I don't know if I can give out that secret, but you know, but I will say, you know, even you talk about like our offensive line, you know, being a strength. Well, you know, you can never have enough offensive linemen. You know, you can always add depth there. You know, our secondary, you know, we've had some unfortunate injuries occur, you know, there. So, you know, you can always use depth there, you know, so there's some guys that might be improving here or there that, you know, you might be depending on. So it's actually not only just depth, it's you want to just add competition. Like, you don't want to acquire this guy and say, look, he's a depth guy, he's just going to be a back. No, we're adding a guy that can compete to actually play. And that's what this league is all about, is competition. And, you know, that's what Dan and myself are going to continue to add.
What value is there in potentially drafting a quarterback in the first round that might not make an immediate impact, but could add to that competition room?
Yeah, I mean, if you see that guy, you never want to pass on a truly, you know, legit franchise quarterback. And I think there's countless examples of when you acquire a quarterback with an early pick, there's countless examples of does not play, you know, year one, doesn't play at all. He just sits back and learns. But, you know, Dan and I always talk about the future. And, you know, as we embark on this build, we're always looking down the road. You can't ignore the now, you know, you can't ignore the now, but you got to look down the road. And so, you know, if the quarterback is the right guy, and we believe that he has all the traits, you know, intangibly and physically, to be in our room and learn and sit, you know, it's that guy. Or it's that guy just going to compete and win a job, it's that guy. But when it comes to the quarterback position, if you find that one, you don't want to pass on.
Last but not least, I've got to do my due diligence. I've got to be the eyes and the ears for the people at home. Who are the Lions taking at number 2 overall?
You know, There's a guy named Chris Spielman.
Yeah.
That used to play linebacker. So anybody that kind of reminds us as Chris Spielman,
Okay.
I think that'd be a good pick.
I thought you were going to say nothing.
Do you believe that?
I was going to be okay with you giving us the first letter of like their middle name, but that was great insight.
But to have a replica of Chris Spielman, you know, the throwback helmet and everything, face mask and everything, I think that'd be ideal. I think Chris Spielman would be happy.
Think about it. Life powered by the sun. Envision all the things you do every single day, and then plug it into the sun. Because it's a cleaner, greener way. It's a pink way to bring energy into your home, into your everyday life. It's about making a difference for a better today and for an even better tomorrow.
'Cause everything is powered by the sun.
Pink Energy, proud sponsor of Planet Earth.
Dan and I have always said, you know, you can call us the land of opportunity. We don't care where you come from. We don't care where you got drafted. We don't care about any of that. If you step in this building, you got an opportunity to compete.
I am Pinky. Call 877-4-GO-PINK to get USA solar panels and a Generac home battery for $0 down and a $2,500 or more clean energy bonus. Pink Energy, proud sponsor of Planet Earth.
Welcome to Detroit Lions Live from Las Vegas. I am standing in front of the 2022 NFL Draft, where some pretty special things are going to happen here soon. General Manager Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell have a very collaborative process when it comes to bringing in the talent to this franchise. I sat down with the head coach earlier this week, and he is ready to get on that draft clock. Here's what the head coach had to say. Coach, it seems like every day there's a new draft order. So I know General Manager Brad Holmes says you guys have narrowed down your list. How are you feeling about the board you put together so far?
I feel really good, Brad and I both, and I know he had spoken about it, but I mean, that's what this whole process is about, is identifying these guys that we feel like that really fit what we're about and we believe can come in and help us. And so I feel really good about it.
Mm-hmm. You're going to be making that pick at number 2 overall. How many times in your head have you replayed the scenarios that could happen based off what Jacksonville does?
Oh, listen, I can't count the number of times. I mean, it's not only just Brad by himself, myself, us together, the room collectively, but I mean, we've gone over every scenario exhaustively. And we're still kind of at the point where we don't entirely know exactly what's going to happen, but we're prepared for whatever happens.
Mm-hmm. All right, you can plan more or less for the number 2 overall, but 32 overall in the first round is a little different. How do you plan for that one?
Yeah, I think that, you know, listen, this is why Brad does what he does, and why I believe he's really good at what he does, and it's because he's dealt in this process for a number of years. He's had a lot of success where he's been and what he's done with it. And I think the people around him have done a phenomenal job. You know, I mean, our scouting department that he's put together, and I could go through every one of them, one by one, their names, everything, but most of you already know who they are. But I mean, the hours that they put in, and there's calculated judgment, man, on who's going to be there, who do we think, where are the needs at for the other teams, and now that we get to 32, this is the list we believe is still going to be sitting there, and so once you kind of compile, all right, here's the list of guys, and then out of those guys, here's the ones we really want, like they fit us, and you do the best you can with those, and you feel like you're going to come away with a guy you really love.
What's it like when you're sitting there, Lions are on the clock, and Brad is almost set to make that pick official?
Yeah, I'm the whole time for me, because he's the one who's making the eventually, look, we both are, but yet, man, this is his baby, and so for me, I'm kind of more like, look, I know, I just feel like it's Christmas morning for me, honestly, and I know I'm about to get something good. It's under the tree, and all I got to do is open it up, and it's going to be something that, man, I'm about to be extremely happy about, because he knows my wish list, and it's coming. So, Man, I honestly, I'm kind of like a little kid. I really am.
So you're involved in the process. Brad is, of course, and then the position coaches. How much value do you put in what those position coaches have to say in terms of how much time they're going to spend with these future Lions?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I would say this: I think it's all encompassing, because there again, I go back to these, not only to the area scouts, but the national scouts, everybody that has a hand in these players. I mean, some of these are now, you're digging for 3 years now, and so some of these have so much time invested and so much exposure to these players, everything from obviously the tape, but just their background to, their character, their medical, all of it. And so, man, that's a huge portion of it. But as far as, I think it comes down to with a coach is, man, does he fit? Do you like him? Can you coach him? And I think if it doesn't check those lists, or at least 2 out of the 3, it's hard, no matter what everybody else thinks, for us to really go that route. So everybody has a hand in it, and certainly the coaches play a part in it.
A few weeks ago, you said one of your major questions for these draft prospects is, do they love football?
Yeah.
So what can a prospect say or do in this pre-draft process that answers that question for you?
Yeah, look, you want to believe that you have the crystal ball and that you know exactly what tests to run and how to know that, and you won't always know that. However, I'll say this, it's usually you'll know it before you ask them a word. You don't even need to let them speak. They don't need to speak. You'll know if they love football by the way that they play. And normally that shows up. And it's hard to, I don't know if I can think of a player that I've said, there's no way this guy doesn't love football by the way he plays the game. And he's all over the field, and he's nonstop, and he's energetic, and he's just in it. And then you come and find out that he doesn't love football. That just doesn't, they don't go hand in hand. So I think so much of it is really off of the tape, but there's a lot too when you bring him in. More than anything, you can't just say, hey, do you love football? Oh yeah, I love football. Okay, well, let's check that off. It's, man, you get to know him. I mean, so when we do these Zooms, or we bring him in on the visits, or we go to the Combine, we go to the Senior Bowl, you just talk. How'd you grow up? What do you think? How about this? You give them scenarios, and you're just building a relationship, talking to them, and I do think you can figure some things out about them.
How ready are you to be on the clock Thursday?
I'm ready.
Yeah?
I'm ready. I feel like we've been ready, and so it's time, man. We've done our homework. We've done all the digging we can do. We've turned over every stone. We've gone through every scenario, and so I know this, we're going to come away with players out of this draft. They're going to help us. They're going to help us win games, and ultimately that's what this is about.
Can it be the Lions' turn to pick already? A special thank you to the head coach for sitting down with me this past week to give his take on this unpredictable draft. We also sat down to get some more takes on what could possibly happen at number 2 overall for the Lions. I spoke with Pro Football Focus Director of Content, Austin Gale, to get his take. We are getting some more takes on this 2022 NFL Draft. Lions sitting at number 2 overall, and I'm bringing in Austin Gale, the lead director of content for Pro Football Focus. Austin, I have seen a lot of your clips. We have scrubbed your Twitter page. I know what your dream scenario for that number 2 overall pick for the Lions is, and it's defensive end Aidan Hutchinson coming here to Detroit, staying home. But you've also got a podcast series with him to plug. So please break down why that is your dream scenario for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, Aidan Hutchinson, the Michigan defensive end, highest graded player in all of college football last year, I think is a fantastic scenario for a Detroit Lions team that obviously doesn't need offensive tackle, right? With Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell, they don't have to look at either of the blue chip offensive tackle prospects in this class. Ike Ekwonu of NC State, Evan Neal, Alabama. You could even throw Charles Cross of Mississippi State into that conversation. So in my opinion, at number 2 overall, if they don't trade back, they're locking into either a quarterback, that could be Malik Willis of Liberty, or the top edge defender available. Now, that could be Aidan Hutchinson. If the Jacksonville Jaguars do pass on him, that could be Trayvon Walker of Georgia. That could be Kayvon Thibodeau of Oregon. But I do think that the dream scenario for the Detroit Lions is keeping the guy in state, right? Keeping Aidan Hutchinson, who was born in Michigan, born in Dearborn, Michigan, played for Divine Child High School, and is really the heart and soul of that Michigan State for this past year. Pushed Michigan football forward, beat Ohio State after a 10+ year drought. He is a phenomenal human being, phenomenal player, an insane athlete with all the measurables you look for to be a premier player in the NFL. So I do think it's going to be a dream scenario if the Jacksonville Jaguars go another direction, and I think they sprint the car start in.
Okay, you also mentioned Detroit Lions could potentially trade back with that number 2 overall pick. What is the best case scenario with that?
So, what hasn't been discussed a lot in this pre-draft process is the Houston Texans don't have their quarterback position solved either, right? Obviously, they're interested in building around or seeing what Davis Mills can do, the former third-round pick out of Stanford. But you can't imagine that the front office is already willing to hitch their wagon to his development there in Houston. There could be a situation where Houston's looking at, say, a Malik Willis or a Kenny Pickett in this quarterback class. And if you're looking to get ahead of that group, get ahead of that unit, you could look to trade up with the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions, because of the investment they have in Jared Goff and maybe their interest level in this quarterback class as a whole, they could look at as a trade down opportunity, gather more picks and build out this roster, right? It's not a complete roster yet. They still need help in the receiving core. I think cornerback can improve. I think pass rusher obviously can improve. Linebacker, like they have a lot of, I won't call them holes, but areas of improvement on their roster to where trading back can honestly add you a lot of that. You already have the number 2 and number 32 overall pick. You had future first rounders, future second rounders to allow for a team to come up and get a quarterback. If you are off this quarterback class, I think turning that number 2 pick into more picks only makes more sense.
One mock draft that I saw from you, you did have Matt Corral, Ole Miss quarterback. He would be the 3rd Ole Miss quarterback to be taken in the 1st round. He would join the Mannings, Arch and Eli, with that nugget. You also had Desmond Ridder, also, who could be at 32 overall for the Detroit Lions. So if they decide not to take Malik Willis at number 2, that 32 spot is there still in the 1st round. What is the best case scenario for the Detroit Lions to take with that pick?
This is definitely the situation I prefer the most, right? I think I'm more on the side of grab a really good edge defender, like I said, whether that's, Aidan Hutchinson, if he's available, Kayvon Thibodeau, whoever it may be at 2, and then look, if you are looking to start your search for this quarterback of the future, leverage that number 32 overall pick on a quarterback that could be available. That could be Matt Corral, Ole Miss, Desmond Ridder, Cincinnati, Sam Howell, UNC. I think Pickett and Malik Willis are off the board by 32. And the reason you highlight that 32 overall pick is because all 1st-round picks in the NFL draft come with a 5th-year option baked into their rookie contract.
I don't want people to forget the Lions will be right back on the clock with that number 34 overall pick. So you still need some targets, whether or not Lions draft a quarterback for them to throw to. They picked up DJ Chark in the offseason, re-signed Cleve Raymond, Josh Reynolds, but I know this offense is still looking for a really lengthy receiver who can make plays outside. So what is the best option at wide receiver that fits that mold and maybe goes number 34 rather overall to the Lions?
I think they're in a really good position to prioritize receiver at that pick. I think Christian Watson of North Dakota State could be available, which has the speed, the length, what they look for. He's still a very raw player, which you could look to develop in the NFL, but I still, regardless, he's a freaky athlete with really good length for the position. I also think there's other really good size at the receiver position at the top of day 2. George Pickens of Georgia, I think, is a vastly underrated player in this class. But I think my favorite, if I'm being honest, if he's available, maybe doesn't meet the size thresholds that Detroit is chasing, it's Sky Moore of Western Michigan. If he's available there at 34, I think he immediately comes in as one of the best separators on that. You have DJ Chark, the bigger bodied vertical threat. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown working the slot, and then you immediately have Sky Moore coming in as the X, and I think that would be a really complementary receiving core with a really talented player. I see him as a Golden Tate clone, a guy that can make plays after the catch, shifty at the line of scrimmage, can create separation at the stem, really good hands, over 10-inch hands, 31-inch arms. He's a really talented player that Detroit at 34, I don't think that's too rich. I also think there's a chance he comes off the board in the first 32 picks.
Okay, I know Detroit Lions fans would appreciate that comparison. Okay, Austin, if Detroit Lions want to have a successful 2022 draft, what does it look like?
I think at number 2 overall, you cross your fingers and hope that Aidan Hutchinson's available. If not, you go with the next best thing. I think Kayvon Thibodeau at number 2 overall or Trayvon Walker at number 2 overall should be the selection. I lean Thibodeau over Walker, but it's Steelers' choice, right? There's a lot of really talented edge players in this draft class. So it's Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Walker at number 2. Don't think twice about it. Those are all 3 really talented, high ceiling type of players. Then at 32, if you're interested in the quarterback class, the dream scenario, it would be 32, Desmond Ridder is available. If Ridder is available at 32, that is such a worthwhile first-round investment for a Detroit Lions team that's obviously still looking for the future at the quarterback position. If Ridder isn't available, I'm not as high on Corral. I'm not as high on Howell, maybe in that 32 range. I think it's maybe more important to look at some of the other needs, right? Whether that's receiver to ensure you get that player before 34, or even going off-ball linebacker if Devin Lloyd and Jacoby Dean is there.
Think about it. A life powered by the sun. With Pink Energy, all the things you do every single day can be plugged into the sun. It's a cleaner, greener, pink way to bring energy into your home. Just call 877-4-GO-PINK and get USA solar panels and a Generac home battery for $0 down and get paid a $2,500 or more clean energy bonus after install.
Everything is powered by the sun.
Pink Energy, proud sponsor of Planet Earth.
Welcome back to Detroit Lions Live. I am here in Las Vegas because someone had to make the trek out here to cover this draft for the Detroit Lions. However, two very special people are standing by in Allen Park holding down the fort. It's DetroitLions.com writers Tim Twentyman and Mike O'Hara. Guys, what is up? I am so ready to get this draft underway. How about you?
Thanks, Danny. Mike, I think Danny got the better part of the weather there.
I think she got the better part of everything. I would not mind being in Las Vegas.
No, she's going to enjoy herself there, and she's doing a great job there covering everything in Las Vegas for us. Well, I'm Tim Twentyman, Mike O'Hara. We are here in Allen Park holding everything down here on this end of it. And before we get into these picks, number 2, number 32, Mike, let's throw a little trivia out there for the fans here.
Okay.
So let's start with...
Answer it, or am I just going to listen?
You're going to listen, but I'm going to come back to you later, and I think you're going to get this one. But the trivia question for tonight is, when was the last time the Detroit Lions selected 2 players in the first round? I think I've got it.
Well,
I think you'll know.
Somebody's got to get
I don't have the answer in front of me, but I think I got it. We'll come back to that one in a little bit, and we'll give you guys the answer at the end. And one other thing we've got to remind you guys of is the Play GM reminder. Scan the QR code in the bottom of the screen there, and you guys at home can play the role of Lions GM for the night. And we'll get back to that at the end of this segment too, and kind of see where they're leaning in terms of, do they want defense, do they want offense, which position. So a fun little app there that you guys can get involved in tonight. Be Lions GM Brad Holmes for the night, and we'll see what you guys think should happen at the end of this segment.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty cool about you taking credit for coming up with the question in a trivia game. That's not quite the way it works.
All right, Mike, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Cut the insults.
Well, first off, you released your final mock draft. I think your mock 3.0, 4.0?
4.0
this week, and tell everybody kind of why you came up with what you did at 2 and 32.
Well, I was, before all this stuff broke on Trayvon Walker of Georgia, who now is a presumptive, I guess this is almost like a presidential election here, but the presumptive winner of the #1 draft pick by the Jacksonville Jaguars. And before that, you know, I had Aidan Hutchinson go into Jacksonville, and then I had Kayvon Thibodeau going to the Detroit Lions at #2, and I stuck with that. That's just the way it stayed. Then all the way down to 32, and I threw in a couple of nuggets for number 34. But that's my 1-2, and I had Trayvon Walker going 5th to the Giants.
And then later in the draft, when we get talking to number 32, and obviously a lot could happen with that pick. The Lions could maybe, package 32, 34 to move up for a player. Somebody could come asking for that 32nd pick late in the round to maybe get, the 5th-year option on a guy. So there could be some options for the Lions there. But when it came to 32, you went with who and why?
Well, I looked at two safeties, and one was Dax Hill from University of Michigan. Really, little over 6 feet tall, 191 pounds, 4'3", somewhere in that vicinity, and also has the ability, they say, to play cornerback. So there's some flexibility. But the guy I really like is a 6'2", Lewis Seen. What I like about him is they say he likes to hit, and I want somebody back there. Now, it's not like the old days where they talk about, train whistles blowing in their head when they cap them going across the middle. But he's a guy who likes to hit, and I like a little bit of an enforcer in the deep secondary.
Mike, one thing I like about your #2 pick and your number 32 pick with Thibodeau and Dax Hill, maybe a little bit of position versatility there, especially when you're talking about Dax Hill. And the Lions are transitioning from 3-4 to 4-3, base, and some guys that can do some different things, play some different roles. I think both of those guys have that potential. Is that a plus for both those guys heading into this draft?
Oh, absolutely. I think you also can I think you have a better chance of exploiting a weakness in a team, either offensively or defensively, if you have a guy who can play more than one spot. In other words, they may be able to substitute to take advantage of what they consider that. But if he's versatile, he can take advantage both ways. He either can protect you from it say it's a defensive player when you're on defense, or it can exploit it when he's on defense and exploit their offense.
Okay, you've got Kayvon Thibodeau at number 2.
And I'm staying with him.
You're staying with it. Now, I'm going to go a little bit different route. I think that if Walker's off at number 1, like we've talked about, to me, I just think a guy like Michigan's Aidan Hutchinson just fits. To me, he just checks off all the boxes. And we're going to see the highlights right here. And boy, he had quite a few of those highlights this past year, Mike. I mean, 14 sacks, right? The tackles for loss, the Heisman Trophy runner-up, and just look at that. Like that's just a relentless motor right there. And to me, he just checks the boxes off in terms of production, awesome hands. He's got a great toolbox of pass rush moves entering the league. And is a leader, a 2-time captain, and has no character issues. And we talked about it with Thibodeau a little bit, but I think it even more applies to Hutchinson when you talk about position versatility. And the Lions go into that 4-3 kind of base defense. To me, Hutchinson at 6'6", 270 pounds, look at him dropping back in space there. That just shows some spatial awareness and some athleticism. You saw him running the 4.5s at the combine, and the 10-yard split was elite. And to me, that position versatility is so huge with him. I think he can play anywhere from the 3 technique over the guard all the way out to what we saw with Ziggy Ansah back in the Jim Schwartz days to the 9 wide. I think he's that versatile. And so, I just think he just makes a ton of sense. If Walker does go number 1, Hutchinson to me makes sense. But who else is maybe in that mix of guys at number 2 as well?
Well, I still wouldn't discount Thibodeau. I really wouldn't. I just think that first step is just blindingly
probably
quick.
The best just pure pass rusher in this draft. I think we can both agree with that.
Right, and I think you could put him in some other spots there, but I don't think you could put him up and down the line of scrimmage the way you might be able to do with Hutchinson now.
And Walker probably
and
too.
Walker too. Now it remains to be seen now, though. We're talking about college kids. Now they're doing it. They're not going to do what they did against college kids with the same efficiency and the same results against veteran NFL players. So we'll see how that works out. There's a guy I know that you like, and that's Johnson of
Jermaine Johnson. Yeah, I love him. I always say, I went down to the Senior Bowl in 2014.
I've heard this.
And I saw Aaron Donald just completely dominate that week down in Mobile. And I had not seen a guy do that since Jermaine Johnson this year. Just to me, he's got everything. I mean, I love the fact that he had 70 tackles, so he can set an edge, right? He can play the run, which I think is really important in this Dan Campbell, Aaron Glenn defense. They want guys that can set the edge and play the run just as much as they can get after the passer. 18 tackles for loss, and you see him just that bull rushing coming off the edge there, and 12 sacks, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year, and everybody says, well, he just had this 1 year. You look at the 12 sacks and 2 forced fumbles and 1 fumble recovery, defended a couple passes, but he transferred from Georgia, and he played in 6 games with Georgia in 2020, and he had 5 sacks.
Yeah.
That's pretty good production.
Yeah.
I mean, you base that over a whole year, and that's double-digit sacks. And there, what I talk about playing the run, you see it right there. And I watched a bunch of tape where he would just run down guys, run plays on the backside. Again, a relentless motor, like you see right there. To me, he's just one of my favorite guys. I really like him. 2 might be a little bit stretch. I know he's kind of projected 5'12" range, but I love his game, and if the Lions pull the trigger, then let's say they fell in love with him at 2, I wouldn't be mad at it at all because he is really one of my favorite players in this draft.
Well, it would upset a lot of people if they bypass Hutchinson for anybody, I would think, but that's just part of this draft. I don't think the Detroit Lions would take Hutchinson to sell more jerseys, but once he's here, that's part of it.
Yeah.
It really is. And, it doesn't always work out having the so-called hometown hero at home. Sometimes it's better if he goes and, pursues his career somewhere else. But it certainly wouldn't hurt with a guy like Hutchinson. And, you talked about, his big plays and all that. Tim, I looked this up. He had, like I'm sure you know this already, he had 3 big-time games. He had 3 sacks against Penn State and 3 against Ohio State. Those are big-time plays against big-time moments against big-time schools.
And then maybe 2 other guys that would be considered at that number 2 spot. Sauce Gardner, the terrific cornerback out of Cincinnati, went his entire college career over 1,000 snaps, never allowing a touchdown, Mike. I think the most a receiver had in a game this year was 18 yards against him. A terrific player. And then Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame as well. I know he's fallen a little bit because of the slower times, but to me, I think those two guys definitely fit. We're seeing some of the highlights with Sauce, and there's just not going to be a ton of highlights because guys avoided him. But the ball production is something with him too. 9 interceptions over the last 3 years. He's got size, length at 6'3". He can run. I think he's the full package at the cornerback position, and I think he'll be the first corner taken. Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU is going to be in that mix as well. But I really like, Ahmad Sauce Gardner's game. I think he's a terrific talent, and I think he's going to make immediate impact.
Absolutely. Like we talk about the body types and all that. He's 6'3", and he's got 33-inch arms. That's something for a cornerback. One thing about Kyle Hamilton, I did 4 mock drafts altogether, and the first one is just mostly for grins. And my number 1 guy was Hutchinson. I had him going to the Lions he was my first pick of the draft, but he came to the Lions at number 2. I had him rated the best player, but coming to the Lions, and then in my mock drafts 2 and 3, I had Kyle Hamilton to the Lions. I think that would be just a great addition. If there was somehow that they could work a deal to move up, and it's a long way to go, and you have to give up a lot of draft capital to do it. But I think he would really cement. That would be just that block right there in the middle of that defense.
Him and Walker together with Deshaun Elliott in that mix as well. I think you've
absolutely
immediately improved your safety position. I agree with you 100%.
And it's a pretty good young developing defense as it is, but it obviously needs help.
And people talk about the 40 time, but you see the highlights right there. His ability, his long strides to go sideline to sideline, and his ability to break up passes and be a ball hawk. I think sometimes when you sometimes get skewed by straight line, speed. I mean, this was his best game against Florida State, and look at this play where he comes all the way over.
Yeah.
You think people, it doesn't show 4.6 speed right there. That shows one instincts and the ability to come over and then make that play. I just think he's a ball hawk. He's kind of one of those guys that when I watched him a little bit, he reminded me of Cam Chancellor, the way he hit guys over the middle. I think he can be that guy that plays in the box and comes up and look at, just instincts, ball skills. I want guys like that on my football team, and so I think he's in the mix as well. I don't think he's going to be at number 2 for the Lions, but I would agree with you. If he's in those teams and he's a guy that maybe I can package something to go get, I'm with you.
I wouldn't give up 2 draft. I wouldn't give up 32 and 34 for almost anybody. But if he could somewhere get into like 20, and you could give him 32 and a 4th round pick next year, or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, they've got guys over there who figure that stuff out for us. Just tell us when it's over.
All right, Mike, let's shift to number 32. If the Lions stay there, obviously there's a bunch of names. We both like Dax Hill. You've mentioned him in your mock draft. I put him in my kind of mock 2 that we did this morning on DetroitLions.com. Just to me, just fits everything, right? Can play that split safety role that the Lions run in their back end, but can come up and play the nickel corner spot, can play outside. He's got great ball skills. One of the best cover safeties, I think, in this draft. 4.3 speed. Just a terrific athlete. Kind of one of those guys that can do a lot of different things. And a creative defensive coordinator like Aaron Glenn can kind of put him all over the field. A little bit like we saw with Will Harris last year. But I think, Dax is a little bit better of an athlete, a little bit better of a cover man.
Yeah.
But can make an impact from all over. And so with Dax Hill, you mentioned Lewis Cine too. Is there anybody else maybe that's in that mix at 32? I know for me, Nakobe Dean is a name I really, really love out of Georgia. I mean, that linebacker. I think, if Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions can come out of this draft, in my opinion, with an edge rusher at number 2 and a combination of a linebacker safety at 32, 34, and you've added 3 starters to your defense, a defense that was 31st in scoring, that was 29th in total defense, 28th against the run, 24th against the pass.
Right.
Like, to me, that's where you need to have your biggest jump, your biggest improvement. You've got a terrific coaching staff over there. Now you just need that infusion of talent. And so guys like Dax Hill, guys like Lewis Cine, guys like Nakobe Dean, is there anybody else that you'd kind of throw into that mix as well?
Well, I would leave that open because if we're not really talking much about offense, at least skilled position
You're
players.
About to.
Yeah, but I'm about to because if somebody who, for whatever reason, drops there, who doesn't belong at 32, just for example, maybe there's a run on wide receivers and one guy doesn't get taken, and if it's Chris Olave of Ohio State, stop the horse, stop the party right now.
You like Chris? Huh?
I like him a lot. Yeah, I really do. Just so smooth and effortless the way he runs routes. He can cut without slowing down. I think he'd be a terrific addition. I think the Lions are in pretty good shape at wide receiver. here, in pretty good shape offensively overall. But I think he's really a player that.
And you're seeing some of the highlights right there of Olave, 65 catches, almost 1,000 yards. But obviously they were so talented at Ohio State at the receiver position with Garrett Wilson there too. I mean, there was just one ball to go around to all those talented weapons. But you got to like that 14.4 average, the 13 touchdowns, and just a guy that can kind of do everything, right, Mike?
Just has a feel for the game, too. He really does.
Really great route runner. You can put him inside, outside. He was really one of those glue pieces, I thought, to that Ohio State offense. When they needed a big play, a big catch, he was usually in the mix there. And I would agree with you. I think he's really good. And I would throw another receiver out there since you turned the topic to offense. To me, Christian Watson. A lot of people might not know that name, but North Dakota State, 6'4", over 200 pounds, 4'3" guy. Another guy that down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile just really had a terrific week, dominated that from a receiver position. And look, we talked to Ben Johnson this offseason, and he said, look, what this offense needs is that X guy, that guy on the outside the numbers, that can make plays, that can shift coverage, that can make plays in the red zone. He talked about, this Detroit Lions offense last year not really looking to their outside receivers in the red zone, just because they didn't feel like that was a great matchup for them. Now they got DJ Chark, but if you can get a guy like Christian Watson, and this was a very run-heavy Bison's offense, so don't be fooled by those 43 catches and 800 yards. To me, look at the 18.6 average. Over 30% of his plays were over 20 yards, and that included, being a terrific kickoff return man. You see the speed and the separation right there on that route. And so, to me, if you can get a guy like that, if Olave's there, to me, I just don't think you can go wrong if you get the edge rusher at 2, if you get a combination of wide receiver, safety, linebacker with 32, 34. You fill 2 of those 3 spots, and then maybe the other one early in the 3rd round. I think you've come out of this draft, if you're Brad Holmes, feeling pretty good about where you're at.
I think if you fill 3 of those 4 spots, now if you get a grand slam and go 4 for 4 there, then so much the better. But I agree with you. Watson reminds me a little bit of just a Kenny Galladay, but with speed.
Yeah.
Kenny Galladay was a 4.55. 4.5, something like that. And he was a good player here for the Detroit Lions. And whatever happened to him after he left and went to the Giants, who knows? And that's not the Lions' problem. But he was a good, productive player here. Came along from Northern Illinois, needed to be groomed a little bit. But a guy who just had that feel for playing for the end zone, for one thing. His first game as a rookie, caught 2 touchdown passes in the 4th quarter on opening day. I'm talking about Kenny Galladay now. So Watson reminds me physically of Kenny Galladay, just with a little more speed.
All right, Mike, here is your chance to impress everyone out there. The trivia
question.
With
my tie?
Well, that is a very nice tie. Okay. I'm talking about trivia, your knowledge. You've been through a few of these drafts, probably just a couple, right?
And one in 1969, I got drafted into the Army.
He's been through a few, ladies and gentlemen, so I think he's going to get this one pretty easy. The question was, when was the last time the Detroit Lions selected 2 players in the 1st round, Mike?
You want me to answer this?
I want you to answer it. It's all you.
Well, the last time as of now, because it's probably going to be happening again in the future, but I think, I could be wrong about this, I got a couple of choices here. But I think it's 2010, Ndamukong Suh and the running back,
Javid Best. They moved back into the 1st round just like Javid Best.
Interestingly,
the year before, it was Matthew Stafford and Brandon Pettigrew, the tight end. So it was 2 years in a row. But 2010, Ndamukong Suh and Javid Best, that was the last time the Lions selected 2 players in the 1st round. We will see if 2022 joins that list.
What do I win?
You win our admiration, Mike.
It's been a long time. It took 10 years.
All right, we mentioned that play GM at the top. Now let's go back and kind of see where things are. You guys had an opportunity to see and play that GM role. So which side of the ball would you select at number 2? Mike, overwhelming. 87% of the people out there playing our play GM role said defense. I can't argue with them.
Can't argue with them. Look, how many have mentioned quarterback this time? Probably not.
We might get to that. Which position would you select at number 2 overall? You mentioned quarterback, 6% only, Mike. Wide receivers at 9%. Defensive back at 6%, again, overwhelming edge rusher. And look, I'm liking where the people are headed out there. They want defense, they want edge rusher. I think at the top of the draft, number 2, that makes the most sense.
Detroit Lions have smart fans. That's what it means to me.
Smart fans, I like it. All right, let's keep it rolling. Which side of the ball would you select at number 32 overall. Now, we talked about wide receiver, we talked about linebacker, we talked about safety. So the fans out there, they got offense at 35%. So there's some, I think probably most of them are thinking receiver. There might be some people in the mix at quarterback at number 32. I know we didn't talk about it, but it has been talked about out there. But overwhelmingly, again, defense. 65% of the people want the Lions to go defense at 32. So it's defense at 2, defense at 32. I bet that option is a little bit different at 34, but look, the fans are with us, Mike. They want to fix the defense.
Well, I think it's the right thing to do with not just what happened in the 2021 season, but 2020 and 2019 with they just had trouble getting off the field, especially late in games. They couldn't get stops to clinch wins. I think it's the right way to go.
All right. And now let's which position now would you select? We talked about which side of the ball. Which position would you select at number 32? We talked about linebacker. We talked about safety. The fans out there, quarterback, 14%. Okay, there's a few that want the quarterback out there. Wide receiver, a little bit higher, at 23. Edge rusher, no double dipping. The fans want, just 7% of fans want the Lions to double dip at edge rusher. Defensive back, 56%, Mike.
56%.
The fans are really on board with this. I think we have a pretty good pulse here. Now, if that cornerback or safety, we talked about safety. We mentioned the quarterbacks a little bit. I think the Lions are pretty deep at corner, especially if they get Jeff Okudah back and Jerry Jacobs. They should be back this summer. But I think people are probably thinking more safety where Lions have a little bit less depth at that position.
Well, I think once again, the Detroit Lions have smart fans. The people who watch the game, they know what's going on. So it proves to me.
All right, the last one. Who would you select at number 2 overall? And I gave Kyle Hamilton, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Aidan Hutchinson. Mike, which one?
Of those three?
Of those three, and then there's an other category. But which one do you think got the fans' highest vote between Aidan Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Kyle Hamilton?
I'd say Aidan Hutchinson. It's a home game for him.
Yeah, 63% want the homegrown product. Grew up in Plymouth, went to Ann Arbor, wore the winged helmet, become a Lion.
We're 5 miles from Divine Child High School in Dearborn. Or
there you go.
4 miles, whatever it is.
There you go. So there's our Play GM results, and now we're going to kick it back to Danny out in Las Vegas and see what she wants to do with the number 2 pick.
So much, Mike and Tim. Look, my decision on who is going number 2 overall to the Detroit Lions has changed about 1 billion times. However, yesterday, I finally came to the ultimate decision. I am going with the Michigan man, edge Aidan Hutchinson out of Michigan. He brought so much juice to that Wolverines team. I think he could definitely make an immediate impact here for the Detroit Lions. But I also wanted to get the takes of some national analysts who are here on site in Las Vegas, including the likes of Joel Klatt, Charles Davis, and Daniel Jeremiah. Here is what they had to say about this very unique draft.
Get to this point, a couple days before the draft, day before the draft, I generally know, like probably the first 5 picks, just based on the connections within the league and so on and so forth. Nobody knows. It's wild, and credit to, I guess, Jacksonville, because they're the first domino, and they've held it pretty close to the vest. So yeah, it's interesting. Like, I can't wait to see how it goes. I think I have an idea, and I think Detroit's going to be really excited about that.
It's different. I mean, my first draft was in 2003 in Baltimore, and I don't know that I've known less about how this is going to shake out, to the point where last night when I went to bed, I would have thought Hutchinson was still going to be the first pick, even though with what everybody was saying, I was like, no, I still think it's going to be Hutchinson. Then you wake up this morning, you make a couple phone calls, you're like, no, I guess it's Walker. So it's really, that's how quickly this whole thing is turning. Well, I still think where they are in the process, when you're picking second, you're not in a position where you need to be picking for need. Like, you need to take best available player. So however the draft falls, you can adjust accordingly.
My hunch is that Jacksonville's going to take Trayvon Walker from Georgia. And I think that Detroit is going to write Aidan Hutchinson on a card and walk it up to the commissioner as quickly as they possibly can. It's a great fit schematically. It's a great fit geographic, all of it, right? I mean, like Aidan, in a lot of ways, is going to be Michigan's favorite son for a long time for what he was able to do.
Yes, he went to the University of Michigan. Yes, he was a runner-up for the Heisman Trophy. Yes, he led Michigan to the college football playoff and the Big Ten championship. Yes, he did all those things. Yes, he's an all-out effort player. Yes, he's a legacy player, broke his dad's sack record. He's a phenomenal football player. I want people to start to lock in on that. Everything else is somewhat on the periphery. Watch him play. Watch him make moves. Watch him play the game with intelligence, with the pass rush. I set it up this way, I come back the next way. Watch him play with force. Watch him play with joy. Watch him play with leadership. I think this kid's exceptional, and I do think that there's a ceiling that's higher than what people are projecting.
I think that there's a clear gap between Trayvon Walker, Aidan Hutchinson, and then Kayvon Thibodeau. And I think most of that is that, there's been some questions about Kayvon in terms of his love of football versus what football provides. Whether that's fair or not, only he can answer that. But that's certainly the questions out there. And his meetings at the Combine in particular were not as crisp and clean as the other two. So I don't see a scenario where Detroit selects Kayvon.
And you also have some power there. I think that 32nd pick, there's going to be people that are always looking for guys at the bottom of the first round. So if you have somebody that you love, stick and pick. But if you're not in love with what's there and you feel like you've got a handful of guys, there's nothing wrong with trading back, getting even more picks. Because to me, like round 2 and 3 in this draft is the sweet spot.
I do think 32 quarterback could be considered depending on who it is. But I also think a position player, could there be a Nakobe Dean sitting there? Because he fits your culture perfectly. Devin Lloyd, linebacker from Utah, fits perfectly. Could there be another big defensive lineman, pass rusher, corner that they are interested in sitting there at 32? Then you come back at 34 to Steelers' choice. See, to me at 34, I'm thinking big receiver. What if Christian Watson from North Dakota State's sitting there? The way that Amon-Ra St. Brown finished last year, love that, love the progress. Get him some bigger target out there to make him even more effective. They win it by being able to manipulate the way they want. Stick it to and get, let's say Hutchinson's sitting there, stick it to and get Hutchinson. Listen to what everybody has to say at 32, 34, see if you can get a package of players and come back and get them. If not, again, make those right picks and go from there, because I think that they will. I really like what Brad Holmes is putting together there. I love that Spielman's there with him. I love the fact that Dan Campbell is so active and involved and knows what he wants in a football team. And now we're making it in that image. And how they play and respond for him, I think that's been exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aidan Hutchinson's a great place to start. I mean, you get somebody that has the ability, but then also has the experience of kind of, I won't say flipping, and it's not like Michigan was terrible, but he took that program to the next level. He was the face, he was the leader, and I think that energy that he brings, everybody is, I mean, Dan Campbell's notorious for his energy, but I think finding players that can kind of mirror that, I think is huge.
Think about it. Life powered by the sun. Envision all the things you do every single day, and then plug it into the sun. Because it's a cleaner, greener way. It's a pink way to bring energy into your home, into your everyday life. It's about making a difference for a better today and for an even better tomorrow.
'Cause everything is powered by the sun.
Pink Energy, proud sponsor of Planet Earth.
Dan and I have always said, you can call us the land of opportunity. We don't care where you come from. We don't care where you got drafted. We don't care about any of that. If you step in this building, you got an opportunity to compete.
I am Pinky. Call 877-4-GO-PINK to get USA solar panels and a Generac home battery for $0 and a $2,500 or more clean energy bonus. Pink Energy, proud sponsor of Planet Earth.
Welcome to Detroit Lions Live. Dannie Rogers joining you here from Las Vegas. You just heard from national analysts and what they had to say about this draft, but we had to get our boots on the ground and check in on the Las Vegas Strip with some pretty big NFL fans and see what they've got going on here during the draft week. Which team are you a fan of?
Oh, Lions, one pride all day. Lions fan, Detroit.
Lions.
I'm the biggest Lions fan, but I'm Tom Brady wherever he
God,
go.
boo.
Michigan,
Lions.
Michigan. So you know.
Two of the people in my family are Seahawks fans. I'm a Vikings fan, and one of them is a Chargers fan.
I love the NFL, like as much games as I can. I watch. I stay up late. I can't wait. It's going to be so cool.
When we flew in, we got off the plane and they couldn't get here fast enough.
We kind of decided that we were going to follow the draft from city to city, and so we thought this would be a great opportunity to do both at the same time. He's a fanatic for football, so that's why we just made it a vacation.
2-in-1 for me.
Yeah.
You know, I got the vacation and the Lions, and so it was a great thing for us. So I loved it.
It's been a bucket list item for the two of us to come, and he just retired, so we made the trip out here. We're just enjoying the whole experience, seeing what Vegas has to offer.
Just spending time with my son. It's something we did together since he was young. We used to watch it on TV, and it was one of those things we said every year, someday we're going to go. Well, this is someday for us.
Once in a lifetime thing you get to do, family, friends.
We want to go see Weezer, we want to see Ice Cube. That's happening because of the draft, so we're excited for that, for sure.
Just the atmosphere of Vegas. We've both been before.
It's definitely a destination.
It's fantastic, and right now the weather looks like it's going to be great. We're excited as can be.
The fans have always been there, no matter what, good and bad times, so that I think is always going to continue. But hopefully we can get some talent in there and maybe go a little bit further. That would be nice if that could happen.
Love to see him pick Hutchinson. Stay home, get a solid dude. Hutch, all the way.
I think we're on the right direction. I think this coaching staff, it seems like they got their stuff in order. I think these guys going to get it done. I think this is our time.
Woo! We are on the heels of the 2022 NFL Draft. It is right around the corner, which means no more speculation, no more mock drafts. We will just get to see 32 young lives change right behind me on that NFL Draft stage. I'm Dannie Rogers. Thanks so much for tuning into Detroit Lions Live, presented by Peak Energy. And before I send you off, we are giving you a behind-the-scenes look at this franchise leading up to the draft with the newest episode of Inside the Den, done by the best producers in the National Football League. Happy draft day, everyone. Go Lions.
You guys start getting some West Coast music. You guys start getting some West Coast instrumentals when y'all walk in. Snoop.
I thought the meetings were very, very successful, and they cleaned up a lot of things, a lot of questions that we had.
Being able to have the time, you know, to do these breakout groups and breakout meetings, it's been a really, I think, rewarding deal.
I do think the guys had a lot of appreciation to be able to come back in the building, being around our staff and our coaches, you know, and I think it's invaluable to get them, because I've always said they're the experts.
On the tape in the fall, I like the athleticism of his ability to kind of play up and down the line.
You know, you watch this kid, the athlete's definitely greater than the football player.
He's a freak athlete. He will show ability and natural strength at times.
Intangibles-wise, so he's a good kid. There's no issues with him. I like the athlete on this guy. I think he's a really good bender. I think he's a good athlete overall. He's long. I think he has upside.
Good-sized kid. You know, this guy looks the part. Athletic ability and all the numbers are good on him. Just, you know, with this guy's play, the production's just not there.
You see, that's a higher ceiling athletic.
I think so.
Like if you're betting money on it, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
definitely has the highest ceiling just as an athlete, let's say, you know. But
to have them come in and speak more freely when they're in that setting with their information is invaluable to our process.
In this business, the passion is what sort of sells a player, right? So them being able to sort of be as passionate as they want, to be comfortable, to kind of let their hair down. And I feel like our process, it went a long way as to allowing them the freedom to just kind of express themselves. And we were able to be efficient that way.
Coaches have a hard job, you know. They're coaching through the season, and they have to make this transition into draft prep and free agency and all that. And so I have a lot of respect for what they're able to provide, and they have so much experience with dealing with players and their ability to learn in a lot of different ways.
This coaching staff's done a great job of sort of leaning on us to assess the talent, and they're giving us insight on what we're trying to do defensively, what we're trying to do offensively specifically, you know, right down to every detail. Allows us to go from the general approach of scouting to just exactly what we're looking for, you know, as Lions.
Every team in the league gets to bring in 30 college prospects into their building, and it's just another chance to get to know them on a deeper level. And then we usually have them meet and start the day with meeting with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. They'll meet with them for a little bit, and then we'll have them meet with their position coaches, defense or offensive coordinators.
Man, I'm gonna coach you hard and be hard on you, but everything I do is to make you the better player. You know what I'm saying? And I love all my players, all right? And I'm gonna challenge the shit out of you, because I expect you to be at your best.
Glad you're here today. Fired up about you and everything you put on tape, so it's exciting to be able to spend some time together. What I want to do within the next 30 minutes here is I'm going to install a few plays to you. We'll just talk some ball.
It's critical information because as soon as we acquire the players, you know, they're the ones teaching them, they're developing them. And so we want to make sure that they're provided with all the information necessary that we can to make their job easier, but to get their input in terms of, you know, how does he fit? You know, how is he from an intangible standpoint, and how is he fitting in our offense or defense? You know, what is he going to provide on special teams? You know, and so that's information is invaluable.
Speed and power, that's one thing I really love about your game. Once you get to this level, if you're a one-trick pony, these linemen can get us blocked.
I see you coming in, and what I told you, I love my players to know who you are. Like, and I feel like you do. I see you coming in being a dynamic wheel linebacker in this league.
All right, so tell us a little bit about special teams, what positions you play. All right, just kind of walk me through this. The more you tell me, the better. No right or wrong answer. I just want to hear you talk about the game.
Anytime you can get that player physically in the building, get to interact with them, you know, on one-on-one, where you're not just getting the report, you know, secondhand. This allows us to get them into our facility, into our building, into our program, and to work with them individually.
Teaching is important to me, so you guys get it, right? And I think the best way to teach is part, whole. Break it down, break it down, break it down, and then let's put it all together at once, okay?
Details. We talk about on offense, like we know the route, but what's the detail of it?
You know, it's right before the draft too, so this is like the final stretch of getting to know these guys, checking off boxes we need to get checked off, and every meeting matters. All the details matter when you're trying to build, you know, a championship team.
We've got a special thing going up here in Detroit right now. You know, for a team to only win 3 games, the future's bright. The future is very bright. We have a lot of momentum going, and a lot of people are believing in the direction that we're headed right now.
Here's what I want to give you, because I want to give you comfort, all right? Just say if we were to draft you. So me and the head coach, one thing that I felt very strong about was that man there, because I've been around for a long time and I trust him, everything I have. And I'm not just saying that because he's a former player. I'm saying that because he's a good person, he's a hell of a coach. The other thing that intrigued me about Detroit was, man, this team, I could tell we were starting something different. And that intrigues me, man. Because I want the challenge of coming here And how can we get this organization to be a championship organization? We sit there and just talk, man, how we're gonna do it. All right, and here's the one thing that we said we would end up doing. All right, and I'm telling you this because again, this gives you comfort about coming here. Everything that we do, man, is gonna be about serving the player. Everything we do, from recovery to practice to teaching. Every coach that we have in this building, man, is all about teaching the player and what can we do to put the player in the best position to make plays. Man, I want to create a winning environment for every player that I come in contact with on this team. All right, that's the change that people don't know about here in Detroit. They might feel bad or think bad about Detroit because we haven't won in a while. All right, now, if you watch us play last year, 3-13-1, I'm not happy about it, but I will tell you this. We competed our ass off, played hard, but that comes from the trust the players have in us. Because you don't get that without trusting players. You know what I'm saying? So now going to this year, all right, my motto is for the players, man, now it's time to take another step.
Dan and I've always said, you can call us the land of opportunity, but we don't care where you come from. We don't care where you got drafted. We don't care about any of that. If you step in this building, you got an opportunity to compete.
I think it's a really good time in the organization. Excited about how this whole thing pans out with the draft.
You stick to your philosophy and say, look, man, I'm just picking the best football player that's going to be available. And that's what me and Dan are going to do. That's what we've done in the past. And so you just got to stick to what you believe in.